Hello everyone. Today we are going to start a new series on rhythms of rhyme, which is book review. And I have Nosheen with me, and she will discuss the novel Vegetarian by the Korean writer Han Kang. The story begins with a seemingly simple act, where Yong Hai's decision to stop eating meat gradually unfolds into a profound psychological and philosophical rupture. The novel is structured into three interconnected parts and narrated through the perspective of others, emphasizing Yong Hai's silent subjectivity. And over to you, Nausheen, to discuss the plot in brief, and then we'll go to questions that this novel is raising.
Hi everyone. The Vegetarian is a very, very interesting novel. In fact, it's extremely outrageous in many, many places. Sometimes reading it because of its visceral nature can be very, very repulsive, can be very, very overwhelming for any reader, even if you've been a literature student or a literature yourself. Still, this novel never fails to shock you. So, the vegetarian, like Vijender mentioned, begins or traces the story of a woman, young woman, who stops eating meat. On the surface, it seems a very innocuous decision, but perhaps not in a very traditionally heavy meat eating culture. However, the novel does not stop or centers meat eating. The novel is out and out rejection of everything which we can call societal or feminine or even masculine or just being human, right? So I feel this is Han Kang's way of showing the state of the modern human mind, where it has been completely destroyed to the point of uh, an extreme disconnection with the mind, with the body, and with the spirit. That the only way forward would be to undergo a complete reset of our being, just to be able to um, undo all the damage that modernity and um, urban living or um, uh, I don't know how to, like, in a post-modernist, post-structuralist world. Now, having said that, one could say that, oh, this novel is very eco-feminist in its approach, or very um, ecological by centering the themes of nature, the metamorphoses of the protagonist, the psychological metamorphosis, not so much as a physical in the beginning. Um, but again, it goes beyond the scale of a human thought. I think that's why this particular novel, when it or the plot, when it outlines the story of a young girl from the onset of her psychological breakdown to the culmination of that breakdown, and what it results in terms of the whole destruction that the character undergoes, and all the people who are responsible that have caused that destruction to take place uh, from the very beginning. The story begins showing Young Hai as a young and very reticent, introverted wife of a common man who's not a very remarkable character or a personality to begin with. He's a simple worker who wants to earn his living, get promoted, and have a um, reasonable communication with his partner, and um, seeks minimal support, minimal emotional interaction from his wife, who in a way is not even capable of providing that. But when Young Hai stops eating meat and throws the meat out, that is when we see a little expression of emotion in both, in the husband, not in Young Hai. For her, it's a very run of the mill, matter of the fact decision. However, Mr. Chong cannot take this abruption in their married life and this protest of this woman who has never complained, never argued, never showed anger, never questioned him, never, never even dismissed any of his desires or wants, whether it was food, whether it was his, intimation, intimacy. So suddenly, when she stops eating meat, for him, it's one of the biggest uh, rebellion, because she not only stops eating, but she also tells him that I'm not going to cook and we're not going to have meat in our house, and she throws everything away. And she reasons with him in the plainest way, saying, "Well, you eat your dinner at the your lunch at the office, your breakfast you can catch there as well, and there will be meat, but and I can cook you a vegetarian dinner." So he abides. But when he asks her the reason, she has no reason. And the meat eating parallels with the strange behavior that starts showing up, which is that she's not able to sleep at night. And every night around 3 or 4 a.m., she wakes up, looks at the fridge, opens the fridge, starts cleaning it, or starts cleaning the house, or stares, sits and just keeps staring in the light of the fridge. And he finds it very strange, and he asks Young Hai, "What's the matter? Like, meat eating is not eating meat is fine, but what is going on?" And she only very re, very gently and very precisely tells him that, well, I have dreams. And and when he further asks, she doesn't say much. He just keeps quiet. So from there, you can see the frustration building, and then he ends up calling all her family members, the parents, the older sister, and the younger brother, and they decide that, well, we'll have a family lunch, and then they will sort this problem out for you. Now that is when we are introduced to the original patriarch, which is the father, which has been an abusive father to all the three siblings, mostly to Young Hai, because even in childhood she was not one who would ask her father to stop the beating, or she would very mutely undergo whatever was thrown at her. And the older sister was not beaten so much because she took responsibility from her mother, and she was really partaking in running the house along with the mother. So she got spared. The brother also got beaten, but he ran away from the house and much earlier. So Young Hai was the one who bore the brunt of the father's wrath and rage. So the father again thinking that, while I can again, she's not going to say no to me or resist my my questioning and my orders and my authority. He They all gather at the lunch, and the mother first starts affectionately pushing her to have a little piece here or there. They make her favorite dishes and bring along, but she refuses, and she's not saying no vocally, but she's just not budging. She's just very quiet, and you can see the tension rising in the room. And then suddenly the father gets up, thumps the table, marches towards Young Hai, and um, grips her mouth and forces it open to push a piece of meat down her throat. That is when Young Hai's first act of protest is, in a way, presented to the readers, which is she takes the butter knife and slits her wrist right there. And then obviously it's a their children there, with the older sister's child is there, and everybody's in a state of shock, and they rush her to the hospital and so on. Before that, before the meat eating, one peculiar characteristic of Yonghai was that she was, because she was not very overly endowed as a woman, and she wasn't very plump, she would not wear her um, undergarments. And that would always concern the husband, but he never really thought of it as much of a problem, on barring certain occasions. So you see, Han Kang sets this tone that this woman is very compliant, is very moldable and adaptable to the ways of society, but there is a um, streak of resistance, streak of rebellion, which grows bigger and bigger and bigger, and then takes the form of her own, takes the form of her whole self. From there, she's taken to the hospital for her treatment, and in the hospital, again, the mother comes and brings her non-vegetarian food, to which again she gets aggressive and she runs out without clothing, and um, she ends up strangling a bird in public naked, and that is when the psychological breakdown becomes real, and Mr. Chong, her husband, decides to divorce her, saying that he cannot be with a partner who's lost her mind, um, and from there she is taken to the asylum. That is how the book one ends. Book two is, we see a more functional young Hai who now lives in an apartment alone by herself, but her strange ways have not really left her. And we see the introduction of Jiwoo, which is the older sister's husband, who is now fantasizing about Young Hai. How Young Hai's innocence is epitomized in the novel is through a symbol of the Mongolian mark, which, as per the description in the book, was found in many young Korean children, a bluish, purplish mark, which could be, which would appear at the time of birth and would usually fade away as the child turned into the adult. But in Young Hai's case, the Mongolian mark hasn't disappeared, which Jiwoo is very fascinated by, and he is titillated by, and that is how he starts thinking about Young Hai and starts to sort of gets in touch with her contacts. So, meanwhile, we are introduced to Jiwoo's story, who is a graphic artist and who married Young Hai's sister because of the stability and functionality, practicality that she embodied, and she needed somebody in his life to make sure that his life ran smoothly, because she runs a store, she earns the living, they have a son together who she manages, and he's barely present as a husband or a father, and more so now he's drifting apart, and um, slowly and slowly begins to um, look at her wife from a distance and being clear about his way of being in the marriage. So anyhow, he now gets more and more inspired by Young Hai's Mongolian mark and decides to do a project, and for which he contacts Young Hai, in which he would like her to have her flowers painted on her entire body, which he can shoot on a video. And the project in mind is basically the figure of a man and a woman with painted flowers in the act of lovemaking. That's the project. And there are internal dialogues of, whether it's pornography or art, also. So basically, again, now we see a different kind of objectification of women, but as well as of the man in this case that Han Kang has portrayed. The way Jean's character, who's also not modern, who's not really representative of a modern man who needs to earn a living and blah blah blah. A very shaky masculinity, the opposite of patriarchal authority, and all of that. And yet, the only control he has now of any sort would be the control over this incest relation and the body of Yonghai. Now, Yonghai has now, by now, dissociated completely from human morals and values, and for her, this whole act has no moral compunction or regret, or does not view it as taboo, and for her, it's simply to fulfill the need of one body, which she goes through. Anyways, so but eventually the sister gets to know, and she reports the authorities and tells her husband, "Well, I think both of you are in need of medical treatment," and that's how book two ends, where the she's called the psychotic department, and both Yonghai and Jiwo have been caught and taken to the asylums, respective asylums. Now, in the beginning of book three, we see Yonghai is further spiraling into this psychotic breakdown, metamorphosis into a force of nature, into a being of nature, where from she, the trajectory now is towards being a tree, in which she looks at herself as a tree who only needs water and sunlight to survive. And this is the part where she completely denies and rejects food altogether, to which the hospital and the doctors are, exceptionally non in an exceptional disagreement because of their because of the nature of the profession and ethical reasons, and they say, well, we can no longer keep her in the asylum if she's refusing food, and she'll have to be admitted into a hospital where they can do complex procedures so that her starvation doesn't happen and she doesn't die of starvation. So the book ends with Inhai, the oldest sister, traveling in an ambulance, where after a whole series of violence on Yonghai being perpetrated by the doctors and the staff in order to hold her back and to carry on the procedure, because she has no strength left except to just scream and shout and in between push them away. So they have strapped her down onto the stretcher and are able to transfer her to the ambulance so that she can reach the other hospital on time. And the conclusion is Inhai inside the ambulance with the sister, still trying to talk sense into her and saying that, little sister, I too had dreams, and it's important for us to come back to the reality without being lost in our dreams. However, you can see that the self-doubt in this reflection of the older sister, where now she is herself looking at the trees for answers and saying, asking and posing a question, well, do we really need to come back to this reality? And the novel is left at that in a very open-ended way, where we are only given a hint of the older sisters spiraling into so-called madness after bearing the burden and fulfilling all the societal roles of a mother, husband, wife, daughter, sister, and then throwing in a line where Han Kang throws in a line where this surprise is sprung at the reader, where she says, well, it was very easy for Inhai in a way to not go back to her child who was sleeping at the neighbor's house because she was here taking care of the sister. And maybe I can read the conclusion so that it becomes clearer as to how this whole rebellion is not only limited to the protagonist, but now how it's spilled over um, to the sister, whom was the symbol of normalcy and um, a responsibility in this novel. A complete opposite, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Then In Hai opens her mouth. What I'm trying to say, she whispers to Young Hai. The ambulance chassis rattles over a hollow in the road. In Hai squeezes Young Hai's shoulder. Perhaps this is all a kind of a dream. She bows her head, but then, as though suddenly struck by something, she brings her mouth right up to Young Hai's ear and carries on speaking, forming the words carefully, one by one. I have dreams too, dreams, and I could let myself dissolve into them, let them take over me. But surely the dream isn't all there is. We have to wake up at some point, don't we? Because then she raises her head again, the ambulance is rounding the last bend in the road, leaving Mount Chukseong. She sees a blackbird flying upwards the dark clouds. The summer sunlight dazzles her eyes, makes them sting, and her gaze cannot follow the bird's flight anymore. Quietly, she breathes in. The trees by the side of the road are blazing, green fire undulating like the rippling flanks of a massive animal, wild and savage. In High stares fiercely at the trees, as if waiting for an answer, as if protesting against something. The look in her eyes is dark and insistent. Um, she can't explain. This is before the how the novel ends. Not even to herself, how easy it had been to make the decision to abandon her child. In this one line, we see that now the In Hai is ready to break out of the claustrophobic life of hers. It was a crime, cruel and irresponsible. She would never be able to convince herself otherwise. And so it was also something she would never be able to confess, never be forgiven for. The truth of the matter was something she simply felt, horribly clearly. If her husband and Young Hai hadn't smashed through all the boundaries, if everything hadn't splintered apart, then perhaps she was the one who would have broken down, living the lie of her life. And she would let that happen if she had let go of the thread. She might never be found. She might never have found it again. In that case, would the blood that Young Hai's had vomited today have burst from her in Hai's chest instead? So now we can see that Young Hai, in fact, becomes the, what do you call that? The metonym for all the women and their claustrophobic lives. And it's not really a personal protest in that way. I know we are going to get to question and answer, but it's in fact can be viewed as a war cry for the existential independence that women have to fight for, have had to suppress over eons and eras and decades and years and months. And so I feel that's why the vegetarian is definitely not about meat eating and not eating meat. It's a deep, it's a very in-depth foray into gaining autonomy of the self.
I think you have partially answered my first question. I'll still ask for a brief answer. Whether the choice of being vegetarian is ethical, metaphor, or psychological breakdown of the character.
In the context, one could say it is not ethical. I'll explain why. Because in the beginning of the novel, we do read about the dreams that Young Hai has, and she describes those dreams as images of violence and gore and bloodshed, and you can easily fall into the perception of, oh, um, she is sensitive to the violence against animals. That's how it begins. But the ethical responsibility does not end at killing of the animals, but at acknowledging the power that humans have over the animal, or species has over another species. So you see, it goes beyond violence, and it deals in the questions of power and authority more than um, it being it being a question of simple ethics.
And
Yeah.
we
Yes,
see that
and it
she
marks the
really
sorry.
speaks about herself.
No, no, wait.
And
Before that, wait. Before that, I would like to also answer. In a culture where meat eating is staple, right? The ethics will not be on the side of vegetarianism. The ethics will be not about violence in that sense over there, because there can be justification through religion, through culture, through wisdom traditions, or why it's absolutely okay to kill an animal, right? So now there is, in this way, what Han Kang does is she does not limit this protest to just a food choice. She clearly and how the novel progresses, pinpoints vegetarianism as only the beginning of a journey towards gaining autonomy in a meat eating culture, where there is a conversation at a dinner table where her choice of not eating meat is termed unethical, because it means that a person will go against the values of the family and the village and the community.
the protagonist speaks about herself. So, is it the critique of patriarchy that we see through this silence of the character?
This is a very important question, because usually, uh, at all stages of a protest, she has never given a justification. She has never argued her stance. She has never tried to convince others of what she's doing. And she's never even asked for validation or even acceptance into the society, right? So she's a silent character, but her actions and her life itself is louder and um, more conspicuous than any of the other characters. So yes, in terms of silence, there is silence in there's verbal silence, there's lack of words, complete lack of words, there's no communication, but there is a strong pivotal presence that like which shapes the narrative, which without which the narrative will fall apart. So her silence is also her communication, I would say.
And does how successfully does she use body as a site of protest, both the character and the novelist?
I won't use the word successfully, I would use the word uh, only. Why? Because in this novel, what we see is that this novel, like I used the word visceral right at the beginning of this review, everything happens through or is done to and is explored through the body, right? So her body and her being, this is where the union has been shown to us, that we are not disconnected from the body, and hence the larger body that surrounds us, which is the natural world, right? So we see Young Han uh, gaining more and more connection with her body, starting with what foods she would like to eat and what foods her body is rejecting. Um, Slowly, the interaction with the body and the natural environments around her is through the body. Like she would lie down on the floor naked, would try to feel the other through um, by touch, experience sunlight, bathe in sunlight like an animal would, right? Without talking about it, but experiencing it through the body, experiencing everything through the body. And that's why maybe the words are not really important for her, right? And in the end, this is how she describes herself, where we see that metaphorically, um, like in the first book, we see that there is um, protest through dismissing a certain kind of food and then shedding of the clothes. And then in the second book, we have flowers being painted on her, right? Now we see the connection with the nature and the natural world becoming closer and closer. In the third, she declares herself as a tree, in wherein she says, um, "Do you know how I found out? Well, I was in a dream, and this was when for 30 minutes the nurse informed Inha in the asylum that she has been walking on her hands and trying to chase sunlight. And she says, "Do you know how I found out? Well, I was in a dream and I was standing on my head. Leaves were growing from my body and roots were sprouting from my hands. So I dug down into the earth. On, I wanted flowers to bloom from my crotch. So I spread my legs and I spread them wide. I need to water my body. I don't need the kind of food, sister. I need water." And before that, she says, she talks about when the sister asks Yongai that, "Hey, what were you doing?" She says, "Do you realize that the roots of the trees are hands?" And that's the passage that I read is a continuation to, "Do you know how I found out?" So you see, here the body is the only side of protest that Han Kang is proposing. Um, if you recall the novel by Margaret Atwood, Surfacing, the protagonist herself starts to um, like understand herself or connects with herself as the lake that she's swims in, right? And the body where the renewals are happening, and the body in which the being has drowned. So in the same way, you see that this novel posits the body as the only site of protest, from where it begins and it ends.
And the dreams and hallucinations, do they represent mental illness or different aspects of reality that we cannot, so-called people who are normal or not mentally stable according to the standards of society, we cannot even feel?
Comprehend, yeah. So of course, I mean, what she is so shown would be in modern day psychology be termed as sadist, schizophrenic, suicidal behavior, right? Um, where there is like a very um, what do you call it, over dependence on hallucinations and um, interference with functional living and in fact, in a very savage sort of a way, one would say that this is self-destruction, right? Nothing else. It's not a protest and all. But that is where we need to um, actually train our mind for a paradigm shift, where we cannot look at it through the lens of uh, medical authority or scientific reasoning, because we know that in ancient native cultures have had a very um, wide understanding of the human mind, and in fact more acceptance than the scientific or the Western world, right? And so here, in this sense, yes, reading it from the point of view of modern day psychology, it is pure and pure mental illness. And but it is also expansion and a wideness of our own sensorial, our own what do you call it, experiential and spiritual connections. Like I know that in Native Americans do not look at schizophrenia as schizophrenia, but as a connection to different aspects of different realms. So yeah, in that way, it is not really mental illness. But yes,
I think,
it can also be.
and one last quick question. Why do you think this deeply Korean novel found such resonance with international audiences?
This is a question that even I mean, not in the same way, but I also feel that I don't know what kind of a novel would it be. It's Korean and shall be able to relate with it. But I think what Han Kang has managed to do is hit on a very, very delicate nerve, which is uh, present in all of us. The emotional oppression and the systemic oppression that we all undergo, through different ways and different ages and aspects of our lives. So I think what she did was really lay bare some of the darkest and the deeply buried ways in which um, one would really would want to rebel and would have um, thought about in terms of looking at society and saying that, well, this is ridiculous. Why am I doing what am I doing? And here is this character who has gotten rid of any kind of hesitation and any kind of social mask or any kind of um, you know apology, uh, just to connect with herself. And she does it in a very, very interesting way, in a very, very non confrontational way. She's not imposing anything on him. She's being a burden to her family for sure, but she's also being somebody who's absolutely fine being at a distance, being isolated. So it's not a soapbox protest in that way, right? It's a personal struggle. It's a deeply felt personal struggle which resounds in many homes, which resonates in many hearts. Now here I'm not really talking about gendered struggles. I'm talking about, again, we need to understand it as an existential struggle, right? Of finding who you are and not having to push people away just because you are a certain way, or people pushing you away because you are a certain way. Of course, there won't be a complete alignment of thought in in your journey of finding who you are, but by presenting this extreme example, I think what she has made possible and what she has thrown light on are the little ways that each of us protests. Um, in the way that each of us protests, right? In the way that each of us also resists as much as we can to whatever power we have, against the limitations we have, against the power structures that rule our life. We all have that possibility, that capability to say, no, I do not accept this and I am going my way, or I am following what I believe in. So I think that is why this novel in particular won Han Kang the Nobel Prize, because this potential that every human has of um, negating destruction of a soul, of the spirit, is something that I think she's really done it quite beautifully. And when you read the novel, also, it's very simplistic. There are no high, grandiose ways in which she's describing her metaphors, or using really pompous language to sentimentalize the struggle of Yonghwa. It's a very clear, straightforward, to the point, precisely written, conversational, yet deeply felt novel. And I think in one of her interviews, Han Kang said that she's really interested in the way how people process these struggles that they have, from financial to geopolitical to feminine, feminist, or to sexual, or racial, and any kind of struggle under the sun. She says that how system comes at an individual is what she's really interested in.
All right, then I
Basic,
think we should.
see, sorry. Now I'm also reminded of the way in the novel 1984 we had, I'm forgetting the name of the protagonist. The protagonist, suddenly wakes one day and says that, oh, we are in a politically lockdown situation, and now how do I find my way out of it? So it is basically like that, but in a more spiritually constructed universe.
Okay, so on this note, we end this review, and we'll see you in next video
Yeah.
with some other review. Until
Thank
then,
you so much.
goodbye and thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, enjoy the novel, but don't get shocked at various scenes and incidents which are described quite strangely. Thank you, but do check it out.
Bye.
Bye.